Report.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember
yeah,
something.
I like your voice. 6:01, I'm gonna call the Village of New Glarus Board meeting to order. Please silence cell phones and refrain from using during the meeting, and I look for an approval of the agenda.
So
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Public appearance of the citizens' comments. We have no one, so we'll move on to item 4, approval of the consent agenda.
One note for this, July financials are still coming, so they'll be in your inbox tomorrow. We'll approve at the next meeting.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. So have we approved August and September already?
No, they're still coming.
There's still come
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
You're just a little behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor, any questions or further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. New business. Consideration, discussion, resolution 2516, CSM and preliminary plot for the Matterhorn Heights residential subdivision. Parcel number 231-610-304-0500. Okay,
Yeah, so the CSM and preliminary plat, there's a resolution in your packet for review, which will approve both of those things. There's also a memo from Village Planner Mark Roffers. He was in attendance for our Parks Committee and our Planning Commission meeting last week. And then also supporting documentation. We have Bill here from Kale Engineering. That's working with the Bader Development Team on the project. Plan Commission and the Park and Recreation Committee recommended approval of both the CSM and the plat with the village planner's recommendations, and Mark's recommendations are outlined very clearly in that memo.
We got Larry.
Oh, my question is the one I had asked, can an individual buy 2 lots and put one house that extends onto parts of each one? Or is it limited to, I mean, they can buy more than 1 lot, but does one house have to only occupy 1 lot? That's my question.
I
Thank you.
think there would be,
I can help answer that too if you need help, Bill.
pardon me?
I can help answer that
Yeah,
too if you need help.
we'll defer to the village.
Yeah, so that would be decided within the covenants of the subdivision, and within we have a developer agreement that'll be coming between the village and the developers, and then there'll also be a set of rules for those houses built in the subdivision, similar to what we had in Deltel. It's pretty common anymore that if you buy a lot, you have to build on it within so much time. So in terms of buying a lot just to have the lot and let it sit, that's really up to the development team. But that's something that will come as we go through this process. So I think your question is a possibility, but not something we can answer at this point.
So when are the covenants? Like, when is that all hammered out?
I would say in between now and like the final plat approval.
And there's a meeting before all of that is approved too.
Yeah, so they'll be meeting numerous meetings with village staff and our village planner and everything. I mean, the important thing to understand is that as long as the Bader development team and their engineers are following ordinances, following the planning process, adhering to our rules, you know, it's really their decision on what is allowed, what is not allowed, how they develop the land, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously they have to bring that final plat, and the police and fire will have their recommendations and concerns addressed before then. So there's a lot that's going to go into that final plat before it comes back to the plan commission and the board for approval. So to answer your question, yes, but maybe not in the form of, there's not like multiple preliminary plats.
Right.
There's one prelim, one final.
So we've gotten a lot of residents who are especially interested in the dark sky lighting and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So there'll be a time to address that.
I would say so.
Are they dark skylights or something that they're?
Yeah, just
It's,
to keep the light.
it's in here that
Yeah.
they're gonna use
That,
dark.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, that would be, you know, again, like Kelsey said, we have to follow the ordinances.
Mhm.
That's dictated by the ordinance. I honestly don't know. I mean, you're talking about streetlights
Mhm.
and, you know, those would just be installed by, I think we just work with the village on that one. You know, it's their light poles that they put in. So kind of up to you. I don't know if you can regulate dark skies on the residential house. I don't know.
Yeah,
That potentially could be a bonus, but that's, I mean,
maybe it's for streetscape, I don't know. Can I ask two questions? What's the grade of this development, the steepest grade?
grade.
Mm-hmm.
Average, the topography right now is around 10%. Between 8 and 12, I think 12 is maybe the maximum. The grade of the roads can't be more than 8%, that's dictated by it. So, roadways will not exceed 8%. There will be slopes of 4 to 1. Maybe it's just a blend into existing. The lots themselves, that's really up to the individual. Our grading plans are showing what we're trying to do is create kind of a flatter spot for the actual holes to sit, and then it's going to, go on a fairly, aggressive grade to get back to the system. Because there's quite a bit of grade, as you know. So I think that that's kind of what we're trying to do is work with the grade and make it something that's really valuable. Our roadways are, on purpose, we put our roadways kind of parallel to the contours. If you notice, that's really helpful. So that the lots themselves are kind of terraced. If you go with the one, I guess that would be northeast to southwest.
And I think another important thing to note is some of you may have seen the mock-ups, if you will, of the proposal online. The houses that are in those mock-ups are just that, they're mock-ups. That's not saying that's the house that's going to be there.
Right.
The development team has said time and time again that they are serious about terracing and trying to maintain as much view shed as possible.
Which, that was my other question that I had, and I know that Vader probably has to go along with ordinances that we have, but at one of the subcommittee meetings, we discussed sidewalk policy and et cetera. So I was in Mount Horeb the other day and went up and down the streets because they have a one-sided sidewalk in their new development. You don't see any sidewalks in a lot of their development, but they have a one side. So residents would like to keep it more rural, et cetera. And because of that grade, I'm not an advocate of sidewalks all over the place, as Roger knows when I walk. So I was just thinking, when you're putting this development together, you have to follow our ordinance, which is at this point 2 sidewalks. So I was just wondering, because I was just there yesterday. I like the look of the, not sidewalks all over the place, but.
If we could do one on one side only, that would be more than fine with us.
I just thought I'd raise that issue. I know for you, it's an ordinance in place, so they probably have to follow that. And it's not anything that, I'm not saying that the board would be in favor of it, but the look is nice when you don't have that cement all over. My opinion.
Well, we would get so much static when.
Well, it'd be something we have to go
Street
through.
Project, we put new sidewalks,
Well-
and if we don't do it in a new subdivision.
I gave you a list of all the places that are, one sidewalk or no sidewalks in new development. And what they do is they just work on developing the sidewalk area in the village square prior, in the village center prior, and then residents would like to have, that open. So, it is what it is. I'm ready to fight my good fight if it got to that, but it probably won't. But anyway, I that doesn't bother me.
Village's current policy is to put sidewalks in,
Right.
and put in new streets. With the village comprehensive plan, connectivity between different parts of the village is a main priority, along with pedestrian safety. So that is the reason that that's in there right now. But as Peggy has alluded to, I mean, it's something that can be changed, but as it stands right now, that is the
Right.
village policy.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
Kelsey, what
just
do
a
you
question.
want?
We just need if the board chooses to go this route, a motion approving resolution 2516, which would approve the CSM and the preliminary plat for Matterhorn.
I move to approve resolution 2516.
Second.
Hey, is there any further discussion? Question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, item B, consideration discussion alcohol beverage license, Class B liquor, beer, pool table license application for Ohana Kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is, Ohana Kitchen is the new business going into Tofflers, the former Tofflers. Really exciting. The applications are in your packet. He's basically taking exactly what Steve at Tofflers had. So pool table,
Just-
and Class B beer and liquor. So
Just sliding his
Yep.
licensure over. I'm gonna go ahead and approve, the license for Class B liquor for Ohana Kitchen.
Second.
okay, well, here again. He isn't here,
yeah,
you know,
yep.
you would think he would wanna be here to,
Maybe because it was
Any
just an
questions?
easy slide over, he just assumes that it's gonna, that may, I don't know.
Mhm.
that's just my comment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, consideration discussion resolution 2517 exempting Village of New Glarus from paying Green County library tax for 2026. This is something we do every year.
And we meet the standard. We're actually above the standard of what we need to levy.
Yeah.
So we're good to go.
So,
I'll move to approve resolution 2517 exempting Village of New Glarus from paying Green County library tax in 2026.
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Um,
Oh,
about moving I was just wondering, because Amy is here, can we get an update from the library and then go to the budget workshop so Amy doesn't have to sit through it all?
Yep.
Unless she wants to.
Yeah, we'll just want to finish this vote and then you can make a motion and move the
Okay.
agenda item.
I thought we did say aye.
We
We
did.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then I just need a motion.
What do you want, a motion to move? Item
6,
6A up to, underneath between C and D.
yes,
Okay?
make a motion.
You seconded, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Amy, give your update and then you're free to go.
Okay, all right, so you all saw what was happening over there, so insulation is going in, drywalling has been delivered, and it's going up on the ceilings. They're going to start the rock on the outside of the building on the lower portion, as soon as it's not raining and dry enough to do that. Sidewalks are coming along, again, I think that's scheduled under budget. That's where we're at,
Okay, Amy.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks again for the tour.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Mhm.
That's,
I was gonna do that too, but Peggy beat me to the punch.
Well,
Good girl,
I think she has a cold.
Yeah,
She
I was
doesn't.
thinking the same thing. Okay, item D, consideration discussion 2026 budget workshop number 2. Kelsey? it's all-
Yeah, so this is the second and final budget workshop for the 2026 budget, which is pretty crazy. But you should all have the memo in your packet along with all of the detailed budget items, draft levy limit worksheet, TID reports, et cetera, et cetera. I think the biggest takeaway here is that major change, obviously, funding that, the EMS is a change from last year to this year, and we knew that. But good news to report first off is that overall, our 2025 budget is looking like it's going to result in a surplus of $186,000. The village has done a great job of being efficient in operations. We have strong financial standing, and every year we balance the budget with, using surplus, and thanks to our staff and to the board's direction, we end up coming out with a surplus, and that's been the case the last few years, which has been awesome. So kudos to all of you on that. Just some facts about the property tax levy. I think the biggest thing to point out, the other major change for next year, is that our net new construction number was negative. And as you can see from that chart, that hasn't happened in recent history. It's gotten close, but it has not happened. Our levy does not go down when we have a negative net new construction number, but it stays the same from the previous year. Which means that we are tasked with funding all the services that our residents know and expect that have all had increased prices, increased salary and wages for the same amount of operating levy that we got last year. So definitely a challenge for staff to work through. Also happy to report, we work really closely with Ellers, our financial consultant, and with our auditors. They have continually told me how good of a financial position the village of New Glarus is in. And said that although obviously a net new construction number is not ideal, we have the financial positioning to work through this just fine. And we do also know that light is at the end of the tunnel in terms of that brewery tit closing next year. We have a potential new housing development, and then we also have the brewery expansion. All of those, it's kind of a 2-year delay. So all of those will actually have cash in hand, right, in 2028. So that light is getting extremely close. I feel like we've talked about this light at the end of the tunnel over the last few years, and it's getting very, very close. So, not great to have a negative net new construction, but there's nothing we did wrong. It's just the fact that we have not grown, which is why we need growth.
How do you get negative?
Yeah, so, if something gets tore down, or depreciates, or, major changes to a building, if that outweighs what has actually been built, then that could result in a negative number. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So, and the other important thing to know with net new construction is it's as of January 1, that's what you're assessed on. So if we had a house that got torn down late last year, but then was rebuilt in March of 2025, that's going to count as a house tore down as of January 1, even though the intent the whole time was to rebuild, and they did rebuild, and it was rebuilt in March. Whatever is sitting there as of January 1, 2025 is what that assessment is based on, and that triggers into the net new construction. So, yeah, does anybody have any questions on 2025 budget results or the property tax levy, net new construction? I know I went through that a little fast, but I also am trying not to read to you word for word what's in the memo.
I do have a question on utility water. The water utility here had an increase, or had a budget of basically 810,000, and the operating expenses were around 626. That extra then is used for debt service.
Correct, yep.
Do you use all of it for debt service?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why we do rate cases in the utility, and I'll still go through all the funds in here one by one. I won't read them detail for detail, but we can jump ahead to utility. Utility works a little different than obviously our funds that are operated on property tax levy. Utility runs off of rates.
Right.
So when we do those rate cases, for example, the electric and water rates, new rates just both went into effect at the beginning of this year. But we were already paying on the substation, on, water reservoir stuff prior to that. So these rates are really helping us catch up and make sure we can maintain those debt payments. Also super happy to report that we have a really good plan with Ellers to stay on top of utility rate cases for the future. So it doesn't get to the point where we're, oh gosh, we need this now. I think good financial management with those rates will help ensure that we don't have those huge jumps.
Right.
Like we have had.
So let's say down the road, so next year, let's say we have such a profit.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And then debt decreases. And then we continue to have that increase. What happens to that money? Does the state say, you don't need a rate case, you're doing just fine, you can save those dollars for future projects? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so how rate cases work is you have to submit all of this financial information to the PSC, and they decide how much you can increase your rate based on what your needs are at that time.
Okay.
And then also to help fund those projects that you just completed. It doesn't say, oh, we're gonna give you a little extra, to pad. That's not how the rates work. There's a mathematical equation that when you take in what we owe in debt and, what we have as expenses now, they take that, and this is how much you can raise your rate. It's a very specific amount. You can only apply for a rate case you can apply, but you're only gonna get a rate case increase if you can prove that you need it. It's not like we just want to have extra money on hand, let's get a rate case. That's not usually how those work, so.
Okay.
I kind of think where Peggy was coming from is if we get this debt all paid down, could we lower our rates? Am I correct in what I was?
Well, I was but then as I was thinking of saying that to you, my thought was that we probably need upgrading and all of that,
Yeah.
so our expenses
Yeah.
necessarily.
I mean, we could get our debt down and then
Something,
1 year we
Right.
could be.
Yeah, so,
I kind of
Yeah.
answered my own question
Yeah.
when I asked you.
yeah, we wouldn't want to get back into that because then we're back into the same thing as we were with the property tax
Right.
levy a few years ago, where we we didn't have a good CIP plan. So some years we'd be doing a $2 million road project and our levy would jump way up. And then the next year we'd be doing nothing and our levy would jump way down. It made it really hard for people to budget because one year their taxes are this, one year their taxes are that, you know. The other thing too is, like you guys alluded to, we have a ton of improvements that we need to do in the future, well houses, wells. We have a lot of improvements coming specifically on the water side. So I don't foresee, you know, debt falling off and nothing new being added for quite some time. You know, the really important thing, I know I keep saying, talking about growth, but growth is really important with utility rates too, because as you all remember, when we built that water reservoir, we kind of picked capacity to serve future population, but part of that is we have to pay for that. And part of paying for that is growing. We need people to move to the village to help sustain keeping a steady rate for our current users. So, yeah, growth is important. Gradual, responsible growth.
Right.
So, we'll just jump back, Peggy, if that's okay
Yeah,
with
I'm
you.
sorry, I
No.
jumped ahead. I just,
Nope, you're totally fine. We'll just finish up utilities while we're here and then we'll get into some of the general fund stuff. So, sewer fund and, Fund 40, pretty standard. Our sewer fund is pretty self-sufficient. We finished up the phosphorus removal project in, 2024. This year, our staff was working with engineers at Strand to put together a replacement policy. The thing with the wastewater treatment plant is the replacements are expensive. Nothing is cheap down there. So I think it's really important to have a good plan going forward. And Aaron and Scott and Strand have been doing a really good job with that. Our stormwater utility, Fund 45, once again, pretty straightforward. Our ERU calculations aren't ready quite yet, but they will be ready at an upcoming meeting. That's a resolution that we passed as part of the budget. Yeah, not too much to report there. Was there any other questions specifically related to any of the utilities?
Nope.
All right. So then if you want to just flip back, we will jump back to the general fund. Hey, Troy, we already passed the board, just so you know.
I got caught up in
Nope, you're totally fine.
meeting on a
You're
different.
you're totally fine. But I just didn't want to make you sit here if you, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yep,
So everything went okay.
went
Yeah.
good. Got
Can I
it.
leave these with you, or I need a couple of your signatures and I can get
Yep, sounds good. You can set them right down the table and I'll grab them.
them? Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Troy.
Two of them stacked on me, I apologize.
No problem. Thank you. Somebody entering. Sue, can you please add your last name so I know for the record? Sue, you need to add your last name to your profile name so I know for the record, please. Let's do that and then we'll revisit. Jumping back to general fund budget, I gave a pretty detailed overview in the memo. We currently have a balanced budget. There is a couple options to explore here. Right now I have $25,000 of budget surplus. And just as a reminder, we're projected to have about 180 some thousand just this year. Conservative ballpark from our auditor, fresh off the press today, we have about $700,000 of unrestricted surplus to apply. So we're in a healthy position, that very healthy. Usually if you take your expenditures and you take a third of that, that's really what you would want as working capital is what they call it. And we have that, which is great. So we are sitting in a very good spot there, having the $25,000 in the budget currently. There are no concerns from Ellers or from our auditors. I currently have the $25,000 in the budget to balance it. The board could also choose to make cuts, which I would just caution you that if we start cutting things, I mean, we are already kind of operating bare bones in a lot of these departments. There's not a lot of cuts to be made. Or we could also choose to apply more surplus if you wanted to. I wouldn't go too crazy with surplus, and I think we've had this conversation quite a bit, but anytime you start talking about covering ongoing year-to-year expenses using surplus, surplus runs out, right? And so then how are you covering it? Surplus is really great for one-time expenses or to bridge hard years. Or, you know, the years where you're not gonna, you know, something better is coming. And really, that's the place that we are in right now. That's the place we have been in the last handful of years. We knew that relief was coming with the TID closing and with the expansion and possible developments. And now we're approaching that. So we really just have to get through a couple more years and we'll see that in there. So Surplus is something we could talk about a little bit more, but if basically if we want to increase the surplus, it would decrease the amount of abated debt. And I did put a section in there about abated debt. I can explain it again if folks have questions, but we can decrease the amount of abated debt that we need to levy for. It's really up to the board on what you want to do.
So if we did that 25,000, what abated, how much would, I mean, you said we can decrease the abated debt that we apply for, what we use. How,
Yep.
what, I forgot the total on the abated debt.
Yeah, I think it was around 50.
Oh. Okay,
I think
Less-
56. Yeah, something like
less
that.
than
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, it's less. It's not a huge amount. So, sorry, one more time. Sue, you need to add your last name, please, to your name. Or I'll have to remove you from the meeting. I need it for the record, please.
Can she hear you? Ask her if she.
Sue, can you hear me?
Ask to unmute.
Sue? Sue, can you unmute, please? All right, and then in terms of the surplus, yes, we could choose to increase it if the board wanted to. It just decreases the amount of abated debt that we are levying for. Like I said, Ellers and the auditors didn't see a huge issue either way. It's really up to what the board wants to do. So we can talk about that a little bit more too when we get into the debt station. The budget does include that 3.5% COLA across the board for village employees. That was approved at the September 17th meeting. Health insurance costs, staff was able to actually decrease what the village's percentage a little bit and still keep staff rates pretty consistent to what they are this year. So the increase is we are projecting about 11% increase. It actually came in at only 6.87% for single and family plans, which is great. Dental insurance premium costs did increase for next year as well by about 7%. That's all factored in. Last year, and we knew this was coming, but this was, a hole that we were going to have to fill coming forward. We had a unique staffing situation with one police officer only budgeted for 7 months due to military leave. And then our public works director had health insurance coverage for half the year from his previous position. Obviously, those situations have since ended. So we have to fill that hole. So that took a little bit of that operating levy as well. The village did enter into a new police union contract, as you all know, for 2026 through 2028. That did increase wages for those union officers. That's factored in. I do have the vacant 5th police officer position budgeted at $33.12 an hour with a family plan, which I feel good about. It's kind of like a crystal ball kind of prediction. The rest of it is really just talking about increases to some aid. As we've talked about, recent changes in EMS resulted in an increase for service costs. It's about $110,000, $115,000 of an increase. It is a significant increase. We all knew this going into it. But because of our operational efficiency and strong reserves, we are able to curb that increase for residents with the use of surplus and abated debt, which has helped a little bit. We did increase the interest funds in the general fund revenue pretty substantially this year. We've talked about this a lot in the past years. We've always been hyper conservative with interest. And to be fair, our interest rates only gave us about $15,000 for the full year back closer to, COVID. We're now topping in at $200,000 of interest. So, or 200 and some $1,000 of interest. So our Ellers thought it was still extremely conservative what we put in for that interest number. I think that's not my head, but it was quite the increase. I think I put 90 in. Let's see.
Has it since decreased?
It's gone. Our prediction for this year went down a little bit from last year, but not enough to stick with the $15,000. So just to give you perspective, in 2024, our actual was $208,000 of interest. We budgeted 15 last year. We were sitting, this is through 6 months at $106,000, and that's through 6 months. Conservative end of year estimate was $160,000. We will come in far above that. Ellers felt very comfortable bumping that number up to 110. So that obviously helped fill a lot of that hole there. Another good thing, and this is kudos to Chief Sturdivant and his department, but parking violations and just law enforcement fees in general, they did a great job this year. We were able to increase that a little bit as well. Yeah, we were able to fill some of those holes. So Ellers has looked at this budget back and front, forward and backwards, up and down, all across, and kind of given their stamp of, this looks really good. So I think that made me feel good going into this. Obviously, first budget as the administrator, but also first budget and hopefully only budget as the administrator and the clerk treasurer. So nice to have another set of eyes. We also do budget that we will be fully staffed in every single position at what we think is like a higher rate. Right now, we're not fully staffed. So we could go into next year. I hope that's not the case, but we could go into next year not being fully staffed. So that is the silver lining of that is budget savings. Yeah, so in terms of the general fund, we are recommending applying at least $25,000 of the projected 2025 budget surplus to balance the 2026 budget. Once again, last year we budgeted almost 40,000. We did not touch it. I would be comfortable, with the board increasing that or potentially doubling what's already in there. I wouldn't want to go too much higher only because it creates a whole year to year of what to cover. But I do think the board could increase that if they chose to.
I personally would like to use the 25,000 surplus and reduce the abate.
Sure.
abated debt.
And I guess what I would like direction for from the board, and I don't need this formalized in a motion or anything like that, but what I would like direction for is, do you want to keep it at 25? Do you want to increase it more? Do you want to decrease it? That's what I'll need to know, because really, as we've talked about before, after tonight, I get the budget pretty well shored up. And then we present it to the public at that first meeting in November and we adopt it on the 19th. So if there's changes that need to be made, they need to happen really in October. And then obviously if something has to be made between the two November meetings, it can, but we really like to present a pretty complete budget at the beginning.
So what are we looking at? 56,000 for debt? If we used 25,000 for surplus and then another, what were you going to do? 30 something for abated?
Yes, yeah, so we would decrease, I had 54,000 was the increase of abated debt
Okay,
with
50.
the $25,000 already in there.
Okay.
So if we add another 25,000
Right.
in, that could decrease that down to 20 something thousand.
And Ellers didn't have a problem doing that?
No, I mean, any good financial advisor is going to tell you that using surplus to cover ongoing expenses, and we've talked about this a ton with salary and wages, using surplus to cover ongoing expenses that you have to pay forever and ever and ever is never a good financing solution long-term. Short-term, especially when you have a plan like we do, you're fine. The village has really positioned themselves, because of all the work that everybody here has done, to be in a really strong financial position. So, I feel confident in saying that $50,000 of surplus is not a huge deal to bridge that gap.
Well, I don't know what the rest of you guys feel, but I would like to not have as little abatement as possible. That's my personal opinion.
Abated debt is debt you plan to pay off, correct?
So abated debt in this situation, put in perspective, the village has about $1.1 million, somewhere around there in debt. 400,000 of that is utility and TID debt. Because our utility and TID are healthy and they're able to pay their own debt payments, we have a abated debt capacity is what it's called. That ebbs and flows every year depending on how much debt utility and TIDs have. So for example, if we don't add any other utility and TID debt, that abated debt amount significantly decreases over the next 7 years, because those debt loans get paid off. But for next year, we have about $400 and some thousand of abated debt capacity. It's line E on our levy limit worksheet. We can add it into our debt service that allows us to levy for up to that much money. Obviously, we would not be levying for anywhere close to that for this, but that is the capacity as of next year. But that number changes as the years go on.
So Larry, we'd be levying for that. So if we use surplus, then it reduces the amount we levy for on the taxpayer.
Correct. The only thing I would, just to remind the board, is you can do that for next year and it solves a problem for next year.
Right.
That is not a plan. And the other thing that I want to remind the board is while we do have that growth and we do have the, the relief coming to the operating levy in terms of that TID closing, I want to be really cautious of not spending all that money
Right.
before we get it. There's a lot of things that I think we've talked about that we want to see improved. Yeah, so I want to be really careful that we aren't plugging a hole with something that isn't going to be able to plug it for good.
Well, if we did just 25, I mean, and we do have a 400,000 capacity and it's only, we didn't even use our 40 in
Mhm.
surplus last
Mhm.
year. So maybe middle of the road, I don't know, 25. Do we have to move on that?
I just need direction from you. I don't need motions. I don't need any of that. I just need a direction on what the board would like to see on that surplus line. That's really what I'm looking for. Because what we put on that surplus line dictates what we levy for that. So if the board wants to see that surplus increase to 50,000 rather than 25 and decrease that abated debt, we certainly can. If the board wants to leave it at 25,000, I'm recommending at least 25,000 because we have such healthy reserves. But that really is a board decision. I don't need official action, but I just need direction.
I already voiced my opinion, so
Yeah.
guys take it
Anybody
away.
have something to add to that?
So Peggy, sorry, can you just clarify what your opinion is? You want to stick it at 25 or you want to increase it?
Well, I was going to see what the rest of the board, ideally, I would like to reduce the abatement.
Mhm.
So I would like to go 50.
Mhm.
I mean, because it's a one shot, we don't really do it I don't remember ever attempting that.
No, but we will have this on our operating levy. I mean, this is not a one-year payment. This is something we're going to be paying every
Right.
year.
Right.
And there's a total surplus of,
Conservatively, we have about $700,000 of unrestricted surplus. But that is literally what we have. I mean, that's what we have. And like I said, a good rule of thumb is to have about a third of your general fund expenses in surplus as working capital. And we hit that and some. But we're not so far gone, that we
Yeah.
have millions sitting there
So-
waiting to use.
I guess I was confused. That abatement then, when does that go away?
So abated debt depends, your capacity depends
Right.
on how much debt the utility and TID have.
Right.
So as they pay their debt down, your abated debt capacity goes
Goes
down.
down.
Oh, yeah.
But they will never be out of debt. I mean, they will always have borrowing, right? So can we make a decision at some point that we're leveled out here and that we don't need that anymore?
I mean,
Or is that on there permanently?
it's never a good financial decision to fund the long-term expenses with abated debt
Right.
long-term.
Right,
Abated debt is a really good short-term solution, and because we have a light at the end of the tunnel per se with,
right.
2028
That's what I was
coming.
thinking.
But the thing I don't want to get too far ahead of is saying, well, let's just fund all this with surplus because we have this
No.
funding coming in 28. The problem is we're going to have this, just like every other operating expense,
Right.
year after year after year after year. So I want to be somewhat conservative in what we use for surplus, but I also want,
My thought was just for the year. My thought was just do it for next year, balance your budget. Don't.
yeah, the budget is balanced as it sits.
Yeah, well, let's use that 25 or 50, whatever you guys want to do,
Yep.
just for 1 year.
Yep.
My thought was not to keep it ongoing.
Yep.
we've got the money to spend on it.
Mhm.
I don't think it's gonna make a big difference.
Right,
So,
right,
Yeah, I mean, we're
I
not
don't mind
talking.
doing it as like, we're
right,
taking a step. I think we could afford it.
Yeah.
right. I agree.
But yeah, it won't make a huge difference either. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing to remember when you factor this down and then factor it through all the, I mean, and I'll have a more stored up example of what that tax impact looks like just for the village portion of taxes. And that's another conversation we have quite often is the village is just 1/4 of taxing jurisdictions. The county, MATC and the school also tax residents. And the village is not the largest portion of the tax bills. So I'll have a good example of what the village impact will be, but I can't speak to what the county, school, and MATC will be. They have no control over that, so.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything to add to that?
What do you guys think? 50, 25?
Or anywhere in between.
Right.
Sarah, you got anything?
I'm just writing down what abatement means.
Becca, what's your initial, what do you think?
I'm fine with doing 50.
I am fine.
I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference, but I think it's a nice It's
For
a
1
step
year.
in the direction we want to go,
Right,
and it's not gonna hurt us in any way.
No.
just for 1 year.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Larry? Okay. I'm fine with 50 as well. I don't
It is.
see a huge.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need a motion or anything. I'm just
We
thinking.
got it talking about like we have it, it's not gonna make a huge.
Yeah, it's only for a year.
Correct.
But as human beings, when you start talking between $25,000 and $50,000, it seems like you should be making a bigger impact. And it's scary to say 50 instead of 25. That's where I'm at with it. That's why I wanted.
You gotta pretend you're a village.
Yeah.
I think too, like the impact when it boils down to the individual taxpayer is not huge, but it's
Right.
something.
Right,
Yeah.
it's something.
So-
Correct.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions on the general fund? Or anything that you wanted to see changed? Department heads went through this as they always do with a fine tooth comb. We either saw decreases in a few of the departments, or we saw increases really solely due to wage and fringe, which is pretty incredible for department
Yeah.
heads to figure that out. So, I know Amy already left and Scott isn't here. He's at a conference, but kudos to Jeff and all those department heads for doing that. Okay, so moving on to Fund 12 debt service, we kind of already started talking about this, but just to give the village a general idea, the most important takeaway from this is that 2026 is a big borrowing year for us. We're not seeing those payments for 2026 projects next year. We'll see those in 27. But the important thing to know is that this is all part of a plan, a very detailed, thought out plan that we have with Ellers that keeps us under not only the state imposed limit, but our statutory imposed limit here at the village, which is 75% of the state limit. So we are still below that, even in our highest years. 2028, we come very close, but we do not go over. The important thing with that to know, and we talked about this when we talked about the CIP a month ago, is that if we want to add something in the next couple of years, we're taking something out. There isn't a ton of debt capacity if we want to keep under our self-imposed limit to add in a lot more new projects, but we also have a lot of projects being added in. So I think that's really the most important takeaway from this. We saw an increase in debt levy from 25 to 20, I should say, in 2026, specifically because of keeping that levy consistent. We had some bigger debt years before this year. 2024 payable 2025, we're getting back into some of those bigger projects. As you all know, we try to do a street project every other year. So we did not do a street project in 2025. We did it in 2024, do one in 2026. So, go ahead.
Is there an average cost of a street project?
It really depends.
On the
Depends on the street, depends on how much of a street you're doing it, on how much utility work it needed. I mean, Third Avenue, how we had to break up into 4 phases, I think, when all is said and done, because it was such a big project. So it really just depends on the street, but, you guys all know Strand works with us and they're fabulous, so.
Just
Yeah, go ahead.
Third Avenue, because we had that big storm sewer we had to put in
Yep.
there to
Yeah.
try and control that stormwater
Yep.
coming down. Which,
By the way, that Third Avenue looks, with that top, that looks fabulous.
Yeah.
But there's that little section that's not, he didn't put overlay on. I wonder if we
That end by Nurse.
It's in the middle.
Oh,
No, it's in the
okay.
middle over but that other part, boy, that
Sure.
was the ticket.
Sure,
That looks good.
okay. I'll ask
So,
you.
but anyway, that little
Yeah.
piece is
Yeah.
not, maybe we could probably do that at some point.
Yeah.
Not have to redo that.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah,
It looks
sure.
great down the road.
So the increases next year are due to adding that cemetery endowment that we did and the 11th Avenue engineering. The engineering was broken up between the utilities and general fund. Cemetery endowment, while it's a big upfront chunk, we talked about this, it ensures that we can, knock on wood, keep that cemetery off of our operating levy, which is huge for us. The only other major decision I need from the board tonight, not a motion, but just direction, is reassuring that we want to try to keep that debt service levy consistent at a $50,000 increase. That's what we kind of decided to do in the past. By doing that, we would be using about $6,000 to $7,000 of fund balance. To give you an idea, at the end of 2024, our fund balance was $181,000. We have the $6,000 to $7,000 to use. That fund balance specifically can only be used in debt service payments. I can't use it anywhere else. So I would recommend that the board move in that direction, but I just wanted to solidify that with all of you.
Yeah, Roger and Peg and I were on when we voted to go with 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
I think we should continue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think keeping things as steady as possible is good for our residents in terms of allowing them to budget, they know what to expect, and also good for the village and for our infrastructure, because it maintains that we're doing projects. You don't want to get into that where you're not updating and maintaining, because then everything hits at the same time and you see that huge jump.
Well, speaking of street projects, when you skip too many years,
Yep.
then you don't get no state funding.
Yeah, the street aid for the state requires you to have debt, which is interesting. They don't give aid to people that don't have debt. If you don't have debt, they assume you don't need aid. So that's why it's really important to keep consistent with your street projects, which we have.
Interest.
Good point.
So,
Makes sense.
otherwise, the debt service one's pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions on it?
So in all, did the budget process work out better than you anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, negotiating something so late in the game, like we did with EMS, puts a strain on that process a little bit, but the village has excellent financial advisors, excellent advice from our auditors. I mean, we are really surrounded with good people, and we have really good staff leading that charge. So I was nervous about doing the budget by myself largely. I mean, Beth Keller in Utilities handles utilities and does an amazing job. But typically the budget is an administrator or treasurer job. So that was a little daunting, but yeah, it went fine. I mean, I think, like I said, being able to rely on Ellers and our auditors for advice and direction and,
So in all, we're not in any scary places.
no, Ellers actually, her exact quote, I think, was, you guys are in very strong financial standing. Because I said, what can I tell the board tonight? And she said, you can tell them this. So yeah, we, once again, we've really done a nice job over the years of maintaining that. And we're in a good place that, heaven forbid, but if something would happen, we are in a good place to rebound and recover.
Good.
So. Last couple funds here, tax increment districts, we have 3, 4, and now 5. 5 is new for us for this next year. That's our new TID. It's the first year we're doing a budget. I don't have those increment values yet, so there's not a ton to report there. You will notice that in TID 3, I did budget out a little bit more of a payment to TID 4, primarily because TID 3 is closing. But TID 3, the closing costs, the single audit for the TID will all be covered by those TID funds.
And remind me again, TID 5 includes what?
So TID 5 kind of is a jumble, if you will. Our other TIDs are more in one spot. Your TID has to be contiguous, so it has to touch. So I don't have the exact map in front of me, but just to give you an idea, it kind of comes here, it kind of cuts across here a little bit, comes here, and then kind of covers back here, and then wraps in around here. So there's like little arms that come out and kind of wrap in these two sides. Obviously, TID 3 encompasses the brewery up here, and then TID 4 is our downtown and backtown district. So,
Okay. Thank you.
I did include the annual reports in the budget for the TIDs, both very healthy. Nothing major to report there.
Do you want to comment on, as far as kids go, we can only do so much on percentage? How does that go? I don't know for sure. But
Yeah,
we can't put a kid in 100% of the village.
right.
Yeah, so we have a mixed use TID, so there can only be so much residential, industrial, commercial. That was what this TID 5 is. It was a mixed use, so it's not like we could put it over all residential homes or we had to have some mixed use, which is why we kind of touched part of the industrial park and commercial, and then hit the residential with the Matterhorn Heights area. So
What do we have? What percentage are with the brewery still an active TID? What percentage of the village is in TID?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
But we're under, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, we adhere to all state statutes and rules. Once again, when we created TID 5, we use the
That
professionals.
was, yeah, it was 17%. No.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but
But we're good.
we adhere to all the rules, so.
Now, the addition to the brewery, new addition
not
is not in the TID,
Nope.
right? Yeah, so we will receive that, whatever the assessed value is,
Mhm.
each
Yeah.
year will be taxed.
Yep. So I think they're projecting fall of next year completion. So you'd really see that full value as of January 1, 2027, which is why I kind of said 2028
Right.
is the year. So. Okay, and then I think the last fund we had was Fund 60. Fund 60 is our capital projects fund, so this kind of correlates with Fund 12. Fund 60 is the stuff we're working on next year, and then Fund 12 is the debt payments we're paying. So in Fund 60, I detailed all of our capital projects. We do have a lot next year, which is what the plan was. The 11th, I should add, this is all GO, general obligation funding. So like the 11th Avenue reconstruction costs more than $1 million, but the sewer, stormwater and water portion are covering the rest. We also are doing streetscaping downtown, but that's being covered in cash with TID funds. So that's also not listed on there. I gave a breakdown of the property tax levy. This is incredibly standard to how it is year to year. This is almost the exact breakdown as what we had last year. So pretty standard there. As I said at the beginning of this is our second and final budget workshop. So any major changes we'd want to make between now and the public hearing. The public hearing will be on November 5th at 6 p.m. It's a chance for the public to give any feedback on the budget. The board can still make changes at that point, but if there's changes that we know of now, we want to make them now. The final budget adoption will be at that second meeting in November, which is the 19th. And then we're off to the races in terms of getting tax bills created with Greene County and starting another fiscal year. So, yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While doing everything else.
Well, no problem.
Thanks.
Happy to do it and happy to be at this point.
I bet.
All right.
So you've got everything you need from us?
Yep. So just to reiterate, I'm increasing the surplus to 50,000 in the general fund, and I'm taking advantage of that $67,000 in the debt service fund to keep that levy consistent. Got it.
Okay.
And nobody else has any other big changes?
I know one year we had to take, we were on the board, and we had to take stuff out, and boy, that was brutal, I'm telling you.
That was tough.
My first year,
A lot of
we had to
angry
make
people.
very severe cuts, what I would consider severe,
Yeah.
because our street aid number dropped tremendously. Our net
I remember
construction was
that.
very low. Department heads were literally like, what else can we cut? Like no new pens. You know, I mean, it was like cutting office supplies budgets completely, it was a hard budgeting year.
It was tough. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we had to do it, that was
That was
15
brutal.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah,
We
we sat
tried-
around this table and we had to make some major cuts, but we came out of it.
You know, and all though, people didn't really, you know, they weren't as angry as I thought they would be.
Well, I think the big key to budgeting is that we're always extremely conservative.
Right.
So we always budget expenses for worst case scenario, and we budget revenues usually for not the best case. You know, we want to stay pretty conservative there too. So
Yeah,
I think that's always really set us up well. And our numbers are based on statistical data. We use
Right.
averages. You get history. We're not throwing numbers on a wall to see if they stick. I think that's really, really important that we have the data to back up these numbers.
yeah.
Okay, well, there's nothing from the cemetery, correct? Nothing from public safety, parks, personnel, and finance, EMS steering committee. There's one thing I'd like to bring up is we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance before we went into COVID. When we went into COVID, it went away. Would the board be comfortable doing that again or not?
I prefer not to. I mean, as a school teacher, when I started out teaching, we said it every day, and pretty soon it became just a rote memory thing. So
Okay,
once a month.
Yeah, I'd rather not to.
okay,
I'm gonna third that.
okay, we aren't gonna do it then. That's fine. I just want to bring it up because, well, you were at that village
Yeah,
board
yeah,
meeting and
yeah.
we do it at the county.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, announce, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll try calling her after we come back out. So.
Okay,
Oh, there she is. Oh, okay.
Hi, Amy.
You're gonna go, Amy.
I'm good to go?
Yeah, well, we're gonna go into closed session and then we'll come back out. So,
Okay.
yep.
I'm out.
No problem. I'll come out and get you.
Okay.
So we just need a motion in a second.
Motion to go into close.
Second.
Okay, Becca?
Yep.
Peggy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
John?
Yep.
Larry?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yep.
Roger?
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wait a second.
I know.
Um,